This is Matt from MGMT Boston. On this episode of The Lantern, we are with the co-founder and CEO of Modulate, Mike Pappas. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. What are you and your team building here at Modulate?
Yeah, thank you for coming out for the conversation. So we at Modulate are a frontier AI developer focused entirely on voice. We want to create AI models that actually understand the way human beings use our voice to express ourselves, not just the words that we say, but the hidden meaning in our intonation, in small pauses, in all the different ways that we can kind of adaptively speak to convey something totally different, even using the same exact words.
Yeah, and my understanding is this started in the lab, from a research perspective. You've obviously climbed the mountain pre-large language model, and now as we sit here today, there's obviously so many tools that you can leverage and are building, so others can leverage. What did you learn maybe from the past year in 2025 that brings us into today?
I'll actually challenge the framing of sort of start in the lab. For us, we actually started with customers.
Okay, great.
Our earliest customers were in the online gaming space, folks that needed a better way to moderate voice chat. Tens of millions of hours per month, way too expensive for you to simply transcribe everything, and more importantly, the dynamics there of friendly trash talk that you want to allow versus something hostile. There's very thin lines, so you have to get very, very good at it. So we really got into this kind of by force by having customers that needed someone to crack the code on this problem. And we were able to really develop the solution in combination with a lot of these customers and this really rich data of how human beings enjoy playing with each other and showing that dynamism. That ultimately has led now to the development of this new system that we'll talk about in a moment that can do way more than just content moderation. But the start was really just, hey, how can we understand what people are doing in this setting? And it turns out gaming and social settings are very rich. And if you can understand what people are doing there, you naturally start to develop more understanding of all the other ways that we might interact as well.
Yeah, so now 2026, a lot is happening in the business. You released some things that we're going to share. So give us the highlight of sort of where the business is at and what are you excited about from a product and platform standpoint?
Yeah, so we recently announced a solution called Velma, which is an ensemble listening model. This is actually new research done by Modulate into a new way of architecting an AI system. Most AI systems are what you would call sort of monolithic model. They're just one giant black box and no one has any idea what's going on inside. That works really well for things like text, where there's a very standard thing you want to put through it. But when you're coming to voice, again, there's so much depth to voice. If I just turn that into text and pass it into a model, we've lost so much of the way that I'm conveying myself. So we need to look at emotion, we need to look at prosody, we need to look at timbre, we need to look at whether you're interrupting me and how that all is happening. And we ended up building an ensemble of over 100 different models that are looking at voice content from all these different angles. And Velma is sort of the culmination of being able to connect all those models to a single sort of top-level intelligence that you can then ask questions to. So that question could be, is this trash talk or actual hate speech? But it could also be, is this fraud? It could be, why are my customers so frustrated with me? It could be, is this AI agent going off the rails or violating our policy? Anything that you might want to know about in a voice conversation, Velma is able to answer, and really excitingly, it's able to answer it better than any other AI system out there. We've benchmarked against all the biggest LLM providers and the other sort of big foundation models. Not only are we 100 to 1,000 times less expensive because we've built this out of sort of the ensemble design, but we actually outcompete all of them in terms of accuracy of understanding. When you ask them which of these behaviors are in this conversation, we're finding those behaviors accurately more often than any of these top providers.
That's awesome, and congrats to you and the team. So now if you're talking to other builders, maybe it's other founders, maybe it's other people in the voice AI space, what would you tell them, maybe even particularly over the last year, about sort of what it takes to build something that's commercially successful like you all have?
Yeah, have a team of geniuses and let them run. I say it jokingly, but there is some truth to it. We have a lot of advantages. We have some incredible talent. We chose to build out here in Boston for a specific reason. Boston has long been a home of a lot of voice tech, whether you look at things like Bose and Nuance, the Siri and Alexa teams. Even when we got started in gaming, folks like Harmonix that made Guitar Hero being out here. And of course the universities and everything else as well. So we did choose Boston knowing that it was a place that we could get a lot of really top talent around voice. I mentioned as well though that we had the opportunity in our early customers to work really closely with sort of real social data of people interacting with each other. And as I think a lot of AI engineers know, these days this sort of quality of result you get is really based on the training data.
Sure.
You can try and just scale things up, but it's really about, do you have rich data that showcases what you want to learn? I think a big part of the reason we're beating the foundation model providers is that they are using things like YouTube talking heads or beautiful studio quality recordings, but the messiness of you playing Call of Duty on your phone while waiting for the subway and shouting into your phone to try and get your friend to do that messiness, that's real, that's human. There's something rich in there, but there aren't really data sets out there unless, like us, we're sort of very well positioned to build with that.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense and a great insight. All right, last but not least, how can we help you? How can we help Modulate grow here in Boston and globally?
Yeah, I mean, broadly, we're hiring, we're always looking for customers. Basically, we just want to help people have more effective voice conversations. So the biggest thing that I would say is, if you know of a place or a platform or a system that has to manage a lot of voice conversations, we're interested in understanding what those problem statements are. And that could be us forging a partnership, or it could just be us learning together. We've had the opportunity to go talk to folks in call centers, to folks that are using AI for recruiting and all of these different applications. And it's fascinating to learn how voice has really transformed from just a way that humans talk to each other to an interface into so many of these fundamental systems. We want to learn what you're trying to use voice to do so we can help you do it better across the board.
This is Mike Pappas, the co-founder and CEO of Modulate, Matt from MJ2 Boston, this episode of Lantern. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.